Hello, everyone. Welcome to DevProdEng Showdown. It's our sixth episode, and we're very excited about the topics for today, right? Android builds and tests at scale. And what this show is all about is we wanted to do something entertaining and fun, but at the same time, hoping you learn something new around developer productivity engineering, which is the thing that we really want to promote here, right? Shipping software at scale requires a lot of knowledge there and a lot of tooling and a lot of help and a lot of effort. And that's where the folks today come into play. They're experts in this field. And real quick on the guidelines, how it works is um, we'll go through 7 to 8 topics, depending on time. Want to get you out of here in 30 minutes, and we'll vote after each topic. You, the audience, will vote on who you think gave the best point. So try to vote for who you think you learned something new from, or someone who inspired you to do something, right? We have each participant gets the panelist gets 30 seconds per topic, and then we're going to vote. So let's jump into it. Question number one. What static code analysis tools do you have integrated into your CI builds? I forgot to introduce the panelists. Right. Yes, thanks. Thanks for reminding me to jumping the gun. All right. Okay. All right. First up, we have Carmen. She's from the Libon app. She's dialing in from Paris, and she's worked on that app since there were just a few engineers working on it, and now it's grown to 13 Android developers, and she's experienced that scale, and we're very happy to have her here today and give her perspective on these topics. We have David from Spotify. I've had the pleasure to work with David from the early days as they were using Gradle and dealing with the scaling challenges. And now the app has hundreds and maybe even more millions of users. And he has a lot of perspective and knowledge around that. Yeah, even more than that. Yeah. Next up, John from Square. I've known him for 6-something years. He's been one of the Gradle build test gurus at Square, and you've seen him at conferences and whatnot talking about Android, and very happy to have him here today. Last but not least, Zac. I met him in the early days when he worked at Uber. He did a Gradle talk at the Gradle Summit for me, I think 5-6 years ago, something like that. He's shaking his head. No, he didn't. It must have been Jake. Maybe I just gave you a free ticket. Never mind. I just gave him a free ticket to the Gradle Summit, and he showed up. Okay, great. But he's very knowledgeable, did a lot of the cool things with Gradle builds and tests at Slack, and always in the community helping folks out. Okay, let's dive in. Now, finally, the first topic for today. What static code analysis tools do you have integrated into your CI builds? Do you have thresholds of max issues that make builds fail? And how do you consult the reports? First up, Carmen.
Okay, so in our PR builds and our release builds, we have both detect and lint setup. So if we have more than 10 detect issues or any lint fatal errors, these will cause the builds to fail. But we did do one config, which was a bit tricky to set up, but we found quite useful, is to have a different lint configuration for the PR builds versus release builds. We allow the missing translations lint issue to slide for PR builds because we typically receive the translations after implementing features.
Nice one. All right, David, what do you think?
Yeah, so we use pretty much all the open source tools that are available and provide value, such as detect, PMD, checkstyle, Android lint, shell check, PyLint, and our threshold is at 0. If any tool reports an issue, it will fail the build. But the important thing is that the issues are true positive so that developers trust them. And this helps us scale the pull request review process that you spend time on the complexes rather than the trivial ones, such as, you have 2 spaces instead of 4.
Nice one. Thanks for that scale. Next up, we have John. How are you guys doing this on the Cash App?
So on Cash App, we use KT-lint and lint. We also fail on any issue, but whenever we do a bump of the Android Gradle plugin, we sometimes set a new baseline in case there is a flood of warnings and errors that we may not particularly want to tackle at the moment. We report every error in a report on our CI attachment, similar to how GitHub Actions does it, but we use an internal CI, and we use diffuse in order to surface any changes in our APK, such as merge manifest changes, dependency changes.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Zac, to wrap it up.
Yeah, we do a lot of the same stuff. Lint, detect, error prone. We write a lot of custom lints internally. We run a lot of these. We try to get feedback to developers as early as possible for consuming these errors. So in the IDE is best during a commit hook. And yeah, worst case, they can look at failures in Jenkins.
All right, awesome. And with a few seconds to spare. No, thanks. We got more time for the audience to vote. Audience, what do you think? Who made the best point here? Threshold to 0. Got it in. All right, let's see here. Oh, it's a close one with John. Nice. Okay, next topic. If you could have one wish granted for tools to improve scaling of tests, what would it be? Zac, we're on you first.
I'm not going to take 30 seconds on this. Just headless UI tests like you can do in Flutter.
Why? We got to use the time somehow.
All right. So basically, like right now, whenever you have to do an instrumentation test, you have to hook it up to a device or an emulator. If you're using an emulator, then your whole machine slows down. Rolling this out across test labs, it's very hard to scale it out because you have to have the physical devices. And it's a massive pain to have to deal with. Like, it'd be nice if we could have the iOS simulator, but we can't. So maybe this is the next best thing.
Nice. There we go. Tapping into that knowledge. Love it. All right, John, what do you think?
I would
wish?
love to have better unit test sharding, automated retry mechanisms. It seems like for unit tests, a lot of this has to be kind of hand rolled from scratch. The ability to enable and disable flaky tests either automatically or at the very least without having to recompile test sources by adding an adignore. What Flank provides for the Firepace test lab users is pretty awesome. I'd love to see that kind of built into the regular unit test task in native to Gradle.
Nice one. David, you're up next.
Yeah, there are a lot of things that I wish for in scaling tests, but to really scale things up, I would say higher granularity of the test result caching. So, for example, today the tests are invalidated if the runtime class path changes in any way, regardless if the classes that change are actually involved in the tests. So that would be cool if that could be analyzed, and I suppose through checking which classes and resources got loaded by the JVM while the test was executed.
Nice one. And Carmen, to wrap up.
Okay, so we use Roboelectric because we really appreciate the speed and test reliability. We don't have flaky tests, some of the pain points that other people here mentioned. However, it doesn't have great support for multi-activity tests. So for those integration tests, which run on several activities, we have to add a lot of additional wiring on our test suite and some ugly hacks. So it'd be cool if the Roboelectric SDK could have out-of-the-box support for this. Maybe it could be possible if Google supported it officially.
Hopefully, Roboelectric folks are watching this today and can grant you your wish. All right, audience, let's see. Let's kick off that poll. Who do you Drum roll, Zac. Nice. See, good thing I brought you back to share that knowledge. It was very insightful. Okay. Question number 3. Do you have useful shell scripts or tools in your build? For example, Git hooks, custom IntelliJ templates, or any such similar things? Please share that with us. First one is John.
Yeah, we do. We have a bunch of scripts that, for example, calculate diffs of how our dependency graph changes, both in the build script portion of Gradle, but also in any particular configuration. We diff the merge manifest to detect kind of invisible permissions that may have been added or whatever other settings from third-party libraries. Jake Wharton's diffuse library. And we diff Jacoco reports to show if our test coverage increased or decreased. A lot of these things were covered in a blog by Jake Wharton in July of 2017, surfacing hidden changes to pull requests.
Nice. David.
Yeah, just like Zac mentioned with the feedback cycles, we use the Git hooks to catch common issues that are fast to check, like through auto-formatting or through simple and fast static analysis like PMD or detector k-to-lint. I mean, we all know how annoying it is when your CI build fails for something that could have been detected locally before you pushed, right? Yeah, that's about it.
All right. Thanks for sharing that. Carmen, you're up next.
Okay, so in our Jenkins pipeline for PR builds, we have a script which runs detect. And if it happens to find any issues for the files involved in the PR, it will post the comments directly in line in the PR of those files and at the lines where the issues occur. From what I understand, SonarQube offers a similar solution, but I understand it will post a single global comment on the PR with a link that takes you to Sonar, whereas our tool will allow you to see the issues directly in the PR without having to leave it.
All right. Good one. And Zac, to wrap up, tell us about any useful scripts or tools you use in your build.
Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, we run auto formatters during commit hooks and also run detect as well in there. We have a number of scripts that we try to keep isolated so that we can reuse them across different CI services and also make it easy for people to run what CI runs locally. We have some permissions tracking utilities like JRod mentioned. We have some scripts for running Gradle Profiler with different scenarios. And we also just have a lot of little simple Kotlin scripts for ad hoc migrations.
All right. Great. Okay, audience, time for you to vote on who made the best point.
Doing this acapella.
All right, here it comes. John again. Nice. John's on the board with 2 points. Nice one, John. All right, next topic. Is it okay if test code isn't as clean as production code? Give us your answer and maybe give some, context behind why or why not. David, you're up first.
Sure. So I haven't really seen any good reason for having less clean test code than the production code. I mean, if you're always writing clean code, you will get better at writing clean code always. And if you have automatic code formatters such as Google Jar Format, those should of course be run on the test code, and other static analysis tools still apply. I mean, they find bugs in your test code, which helps you find bugs in your production code.
Nice one. Okay. Carmen, you're up next. How do you feel about this?
So I have an example to share. We had some sort of ugly reflection hacks in our test suite, which was resetting the state of some singleton, which was provided by our SDK. It worked very well for a long time until we had to update to Java 15, and then all of a sudden this ugly reflection hack stopped working. So we had to find another solution, which in our case was not using the singleton at all in our app. So in a summary, it can be okay, but you have to accept that it might break at some time.
Okay, nice one. I love that example. Zac, what about you?
Yeah, I know that this is sometimes popular. I personally don't like it, especially when tools like Detect do this by default for a lot of things. Like, why write sloppy code that you're going to have to refactor at some point, or somebody else is going to have to clean up for you? And I also find that messy code often leads to messy test cases. There's a good quote of like, this fire extinguisher has been really well tested against putting out unlit candles. And you just don't want to end up in that situation.
Oh, nice one, nice one. All right, John, wrap it up.
Sure. So I think test code should be clean, but in a different way. So readable to explain its purpose. Using, for example, if you're testing with a feature flag, even if the default is set to true, I still like to explicitly set it in the test just so it could be really clear. Using constants for base models that hopefully are using Kotlin data classes and only copying the field that is the focus of the test so that you know when that field is not set that the test fails for that reason. And also avoiding unnecessary assertions in a test. If you're asserting 5 fields, but really there was only one thing you cared about, just assert on one thing to make it clear.
All right, nice one. And Zac likes it too. All right, let's see. Audience, who did you learn something new from? All right, John again. Wow, John is on a roll. Nice one, John. Okay, my favorite topic for today. What are the pros and cons of app developers implementing tests versus the test engineers doing it? Interesting topic. Carmen, you're up first.
Okay, well, both obviously have value. In my experience, when the app developers are writing tests, they will gain more responsibility for the code quality of the project, which is always a plus. But on the other hand, we also had experience with test engineers writing tests. They used completely different set of tools than us. They were using Appium, Calabash, Cucumber. They would run tests that may take several hours on multiple devices running on real backend. And it was a different purpose. They would be run nightly instead of integrated into the CI, and they maybe had a different variety of scenarios that they were testing.
Okay, nice one. David, what about you?
Yeah, I find it more efficient to let the developers automate the test within the features because they know the context about it, for example, through unit testing or activity testing. But I also noticed that the interactions between different features tend to be less well tested. So I think that test engineers have a more holistic view of the app and should also be able to identify how to fix the testing, testing holistically. Spotify will always consider QA to stand for quality assistance, not quality assurance.
All right. John?
Yeah. So similar to Carmen's point on ownership, totally pro engineers writing the test themselves. I'd also say documentation. Documentation is a commonly sought out thing. I like to use tests as documentation, and so therefore the engineer who wrote the code is probably the best person to write that test as a documentation medium. I think also part of this is for UI tests especially, having test engineers not have knowledge of the code base is kind of where Selenium versus Espresso as UI test frameworks show kind of where Selenium would be better for the web, but Espresso fails on Android.
Nice one. Yeah, I like that documentation example. And Zac, to wrap it up.
I'm going to be a bit of a broken record here, but basically kind of agree with what everyone else has been talking about. I think for me, this question was a bit weird because I feel like they're two different fields, really. You have implementing engineers write unit tests to make sure that it works, but then QA, quality assurance, quality assistance, quality engineers, their job is to come in and make sure that it feels right. And that's a macro level look at the app, exploratory testing, things like that, they're just separate fields to me.
All right. Okay, audience, which answer did you like the most? Let's kick off that poll. Drum roll. Oh, Carmen. Yeah, it was a close one between Carmen and David. Nice. Carmen, you're on the board. All right, next topic. Do you require a certain test coverage before merging PRs? Zac, you're up first. You have a lot of experience in this area.
Yep. Nope. I think code coverage is a really dumb tool as a metric. I think that it's useful if you want to find gaps when you're writing the tests themselves. But I think as a metric or reporting it on CI, I think it gets misused by management as a quality metric. And I think it's better just to get rid of it.
Okay. Next up, John, what do you think?
Wholeheartedly agree with Zac. Nope, should not require it, nor should you. You should enable your engineers to write and run tests fast, including if they wrote the test wrong the first time. They should be able to write it fast and quickly the second time, and trust them to ship, as that's how our culture is anyway on Cash App. We surfaced the change for the Jacoco coverage, as I mentioned earlier. So if there are, for example, no tests, reviewers will see that diff and can call out particular areas where the context is important, but sweepingly saying, hey, we need to hit this number doesn't provide much value.
All right. Let's see if anybody disagrees with John and Zac. David, you're up first. How do you feel about this?
Yes, we require about 100% test coverage, of course. No, just like everyone else, it is a bit of a waste of time to try and cover everything. At least when we're talking about line coverage, I am a big fan of mutation testing instead. That will actually tell you something about the quality of your tests. But sure, we can track the line coverage and we can find the weak spots and address that, but it's not a requirement for the PR.
All right. And Carmen, how about you with your app? You're in a different scale than these folks, so things might be a bit different, but yeah.
Sure. So we don't have any official policy or any automated enforcement of required code coverage on PRs. We do have our Jenkins pipeline that posts a summary of the code coverage on the PR as a comment. And we use it as an indicator. We know what the code coverage should be. And we see, oh, look, if it dropped a bit, maybe we need to take a look and see if we need to add a test. Or perhaps there might be some dead code in the PR that can be removed. So it's a guideline. We do follow it, but no requirements.
Nice. I like that answer. That was really nice. All right, audience, why don't you vote for whose response you like the most?
Doing this acapella.
All right. It was close between Zac and Carmen, but Zac, you're up with 2 points. Nice. Okay, so we're in the lightning round now. 15 seconds. Should be an easy one, right? What's your favorite testing tool and why? 15 seconds. John, you're up first.
So I'm biased, but on Cash App, we wrote a tool called Paparazzi, where you can snapshot test your views on the JVM. So there is no need for espresso setup or RoboElectric setup. Just inflate or instantiate your view, set your model. Paparazzi does the rest. It's basically an extension of Layout Inspector, so any bugs are likely Google's faults too. Just kidding.
Nice. Blame it on Google. All right. David, what do you think?
Yeah, I mentioned mutation testing. I think it's intriguing. It's particularly using PyTest for Java code. In a nutshell, it modifies the production code and checks if the test detected the modification. If the test didn't find it, they have room for improvements, basically.
Okay. Carmen, what's your favorite testing tool?
I'd say the Jacoco test reports. When it's really, I found it really valuable when trying to add tests to a project that had very low coverage. Being able to drill down and see exactly what's covered and not covered, it really gives inspiration to find what are the next test scenarios we can implement. So thanks, Team Jacoco.
Nice one for Jacoco folks. Zach, what about you? Favorite testing tool?
Mine's definitely got to be Google Truth. It's a really good assertion library. It's focused on having just really good, helpful error messages, has a nice extensible API. It's really easy to read tests that use Google Truth. So yeah, it's a default for me in any project.
All right. Some great ones in there. Okay, audience, what do you think? And John, just by a hairpin with David right behind him. Nice one, John. All right, we got four, we got almost 3 and something minutes. Let's do this last topic. Where do you execute integration tests for CI? Do you have any in-house device farm, Firebase Test Lab, Amazon device farm, any test distribution technologies, fan out stuff? David, you're up first.
Yeah, so we run our tests in a Firebase Test Lab. We used to have our own when Firebase didn't exist as a product, but the upkeep was horrendous. The phone was crashing all the time. You had to reboot everything once in a while.
All right. Next one, Carmen. What do you guys use for this, if you use anything at all?
So our test suite is written mostly in Espresso, so we could run our tests on emulators and devices, but in our CI environment, we run them on Roboelectric, so it's really fast to execute a large test suite, and we don't have any problem with flaky tests. So thanks, Team Roboelectric.
Nice. Okay, Zach, what about you? What do you guys do over at Slack?
Yeah, we run things on Firebase Test Lab. I think in-house device farms are for companies that make their own hardware or their product is itself an in-house device farm. So yeah, we got better things to do.
All right. And John, to wrap it up.
Yeah, so also Firebase Test Lab in combination with Fladle, which is a Gradle plugin written by Nelson Ozaki that hooks into Flink for like parallelization and cool configurations. Testing over device. We haven't yet turned it on for multiple device matrices and locales, but that's the plan. I do wish we had headless mode per Zach's earlier comment because those things do run a little slowly.
Nice. And a nice little plug for my buddy Nelson. Okay, let's get the poll going. David, you got on board. Yes. Yes. Awesome. All great topics and great answers. And John, you're the winner. You get 15 seconds to promote and talk about whatever you want to talk about. What do you want to talk about today?
Cool. Well, yeah, we're hiring as always on Cash App or it's Square, the parent company. So if you're interested, you can DM me. Also, as I mentioned earlier, Paparazzi is currently pre 1.0 release, but I'm looking for as many testers as possible to just try it out in their apps and send feedback. I know we're trying to get Compose supported soon.
Awesome. Thanks, John. That was good. A little over. It's okay. And perfect 30 minutes. Thanks everyone for joining. We'll announce the next episode soon. Thanks to Great Old, my employer, for sponsoring this and promoting productivity engineering to the community. And once again, thanks to all of you for joining and the panelists. You know, Carmen, David, Zac, John. Love you guys. And yeah, till next time.